Marjot and I having another night's sleep, feeling a little sick, toxic stuff falling out of the air, but we were getting by just fine. Nothing else to complain about. Place is a bit of a mess, and we were going to do some cleaning when we woke up. Same held true for outside. One of our muffalo had dementia and seemed to be rather confused. We decided we were just going to put it down, probably use the meat, and we didn't really have a lot of material to feed it with, so we were going to have to deal with it the hard way. Marjot took care of that. She got it hauled in so it wouldn't get gross from the toxic fallout. We were ripping down some roof where we kept the bodies, see if we could get them to rot and the toxic fallout disappear a little faster. And when I got up, I got to cooking. I butchered up that muffalo. Marjot was running around, taking down roofs, eating, taking down more roofs. I just kept right on cooking. Marjot started smelting up the steel we'd gathered after that. She decided to chill out and have a beer. And then she was feeling rather inspired. Maybe because of the beer. Maybe not. But regardless, she was happy. Felt like building something. She decided she was going to build us a new nightstand. Real fancy one. And she built one hell of a nice one. Decided to take the old one apart. We'd have to keep this furniture with us when we left. And we decided we were going to move the base over by the ocean. Marjot wanted a nice home where she could hear the water at night. And I thought that was a great idea. So I put stuff away after I was done cooking. Marjot was off to bed. She was pretty sick from having been outside so much. I sat and watched some TV for a while. Thought about carrying that wood out of our bedroom. Muffalo were getting a bit sick as well. One of them pretty significantly so. We were going to have to stop allowing them out under the open sky. Shouldn't be too big of an issue. So we just sectioned them off to a slightly smaller space. Called it good. While we were sleeping, some cargo pods came down. A bunch of fine meals. Some more steel slag. Marjot got up. She decided she was going to stay inside for a while, lest she get any sicker. So that's what she did. Just worked on smelting. Just trying to stay inside mostly. I had a good sleep. Marjot got back to research. We were going to see about growing some plants, in case we need to do so indoors. Muck around with that a bit. Our hops were still growing, despite the toxicity in the air. Decided to see what we could harvest to that. Maybe we'd get some more beer. There's a bunch of dead animals laying outside. I saw a rhino, bloated with corpse gas. A boom rat died nearby. Exploded, started a fire. Scared the crap out of me. I thought we were being besieged or something. But we weren't. We were just going to ignore the fire. There's no sense going out and putting that out. I got back to making Bionics. Marjot was researching away. I tried to keep the room clean. I finished Marjot's bionic stomach. Still didn't have the skill, confidence to actually do an operation on her. But once I got there, I'd learn real fast. Marjot figured out how to make some hydroponics. And we decided we better get back to figuring out how to make some decent guns should we need them. She really enjoyed that kind of stuff. She went and watched some TV. Turns out she was big on the History Channel. Something about how the faction relations on this planet went. Seemed to me they go pretty negative, but what do I know? We roofed over a section, decided to build a grow light. Hopefully our power grid would support it. We were going to try some hydroponics, see if we could get some food to grow faster, being that it would be an ideal situation for it. So we planned a bit of that. Might be a waste of material, but we'd give it a go. I got those built, then we went off to bed, had a good time together, happy at our successes for the day. We were both recovering pretty well from the toxicity. Marjot was sick a little bit, but not too bad. She might be fine by morning. We had some beer fermented. We'd have to get that pulled out of the barrels, put away. We're starting to get quite a cache of beer. Apparently our relations were deteriorating with some of our neighbors, but we didn't care too much. I got up and had a meal. Marjot got the beer taken care of. I had to make some more kibble for the muffalo. Marjot got back to research. She was making great progress. And I planted a little rice. Got back to the business of working on advanced components. Marjot researched away. She was certainly smarter than I was. Based on the temperature outside, we had to build a bit of a wall, keep our hydroponic bins warm. So Marjot got to working on that. I was focused on the bionic task before playing some game of It's nice to chill out for a little while. Marjot had to take breaks, milk the animals. There's always something to do with them. And when I finished the game of I decided to help out, building a little enclosure for our plants. Decided to put some in the ground as well. See if those hydroponic bins were even worthwhile in this situation. Marjot figured out the gas operation for firearms. She was debating what to do next. She wanted to do something pretty, so she started trying to figure out how to make a good carpet. I started planting rice, decided we really didn't need these hydroponic bins. Rice could go on the ground just fine. It would grow a little slower, but we had enough to get us through. So it wasn't a big deal. A little bit of wasted material there, but it was a lesson learned. Marjot was researching and I was planting rice. Marjot did some cleaning as well. She said she made better research progress when the room was clean. We both went off to bed after that. Marjot was feeling a bit sick due to the toxic buildup, but otherwise we were both okay. And when I got up, I got back to putting the rest of the rice in the ground. Decided we would build a light, a regular light, near where our rice was growing. And then I got back to making bionics and Marjot got back to researching. I told her carpet seemed like a waste of time, but she was hell-bent on accomplishing it, so I let her have it. Not that I really had any say in the matter anyway. Turns out we hadn't roofed over our whole enclosure for the plants, so we had to get to that as well. Keep those temperatures nice, keep that toxic stuff out. And Marjot kept researching. I got back to making advanced components, which I was going to need for these bionics. Then I visited one of the cat graves. Poor little critters. Still feel bad for them. Don't know why anybody would try and have a pet around here. Gotta get something mean for a pet if it has any chance of survival. We are back to the usual research and bionic making. And a psychic pleasure settled over me at that point. We were having some power issues due to how much energy that grow light was taking, so we had to shut some stuff off, see if we could pull through. We still weren't making it very well, so we were debating on what we'd have to do here. We let it go for a little while. I had to make some more kibble. Buffalo seemed hungry, didn't have any food. We both kept working. Lights are flickering like crazy. And we decided we were going to have to add some additional power to our grid. So we stood up a windmill, tried to, before we got too tired and had to hit the hay. The power flickering all night, which was a little irritating, so I got on up. Felt late, but it was only 7 p.m. A meteorite fell nearby. Looked like sandstone. Wasn't terribly far, so thankfully it didn't crash through our home. I got back up and did some work for a little while, and that was right about the time big mass of those aliens showed up. They're not messing around, man. Tell you, they show up in huge groups. Not sure how we're gonna deal with this many, in all honesty. Especially considering usually a second bunch comes right after the first bunch. We're gonna have to see if we could preserve some traps. So we grabbed our weapons, ran on out to the door. We needed to try and shoot down any that we could before they stepped on the traps. Those damn things move so fast though, we didn't really have the option. One of our guns started firing and clipped me. Those aliens started bashing on our doors. If they got through that, we were in a world of trouble. Marjot decided to start repairing it, as the rest of the aliens dying on the traps. And sure enough, another group of aliens showed up about that time as well. We were in a whole mess of trouble here. They were getting pretty close to us. All the little weedy ones died on the traps. One of the big ones got in, but the guns took care of it. My leg was feeling a little weird, where that autocannon had shot me. A bunch of these things got in. They started bashing stuff up. The guns started shooting like crazy. Not all of them were dying from the bullets either. They were shooting acid all over our muffalo. We were trying to get over there to save them. The guns were shooting. One of the muffalo went down. I realized I wouldn't have to build any kibble. That was a thought in the back of my head at that point. We were trying to shoot aliens. One of them came up behind us. Got a hold of me pretty good. Between Marjot and the gun, it went down. Our other muffalo was killed as well. And the guns took care of the rest of the things. There's still a few more coming though. We were gonna have to get the hell out of here. And the guns cut loose on the first one to make it in. The other one hesitated before the guns took care of it. Seems like those things do have a spark of intelligence in there, since it paused before stepping into the gun path, though it still did it. A bunch of these aliens were still alive, and we were going to have to get out there and shoot them up by hand. Marjot seemed to be having better luck at that than I did. I think her gun just works a little better, blasting through the little armored shells. So we went around, shooting them up, taking these things out. Everything was one hell of a disastrous mess, I can tell you that. We had to kill them before they stood up though. These things are tougher than you'd believe. It was unfortunate that our muffalo had been killed. It's going to make it a little more difficult to move our home somewhere, considering we'd have to carry everything ourselves, unless we waited till we could get a few more. I was hoping to wait till I got my Marjot's Bionics installed anyway. We both have a lot less to worry about. So we shot up all the aliens. We were both starving by then, and then we were so tired we had to get ourselves to bed. We were having some fun in the bed. Marjot realized I was injured, and she jumped up to take care of it. Which is a little disappointing, wrecking our good time, but I guess I understand her concern. We decided we were going to start just by doing some simple cleanup. At least where we walked, we didn't need to be stepping in all this acid blood. We're also going to have to get all these bodies hauled out of here. Could probably toss the muffalo in the freezer. Marjot was a little upset considering how much time she'd spent with those muffalo. Somebody phoned us at that point, saying they were being chased and needed some help. We weren't really in a position to help, since our defenses were mostly down. I was tossing horseshoes, standing in a puddle of blood, while Marjot was drinking a beer. And then I started hauling these bodies out. It was a bigger mess than I would have liked. It started raining about that time. We were both acutely aware of the toxic fallout falling on our heads as we were trying to get this stuff done. There wasn't a lot we could do though. We had to get this cleaned up, get some security in place. We built some additional roofs, see if we could stay under cover. And we were both feeling rather sick. And it was growing by the minute. Marjot was building traps. I was hauling these dead aliens out. We were going to build some more roofs around anywhere we walked or worked. Who knows how long this toxic stuff would last. It was most disappointing. We were off to bed then. We just had enough for the day. Everything was a mess, inside and out. And we were both rather sick. Marjot was doing better than I was. She'd been standing under the roofs while I hauled all the bodies out. I had to get up and have a meal. Decided to do a little bit of cleaning. Big puddles of blood that were around. And Marjot got up and had a meal. And she decided to repair the batteries, lest those things start exploding on us again. So I cleaned and cleaned. Marjot started putting up roofs. And then I got back to hauling those alien bodies out. We decided we were going to rebuild the roof over where we were storing the bodies. That way we could have a fire the rain wouldn't put out. And it was definitely going to be needed. It was a disgusting, stinky mess over there. I was hauling bodies. Marjot was still building traps. Marjot decided she couldn't take it anymore. So she went out and started chucking Molotovs at the bodies. I thought about putting the fires out for some god-awful reason. Just a reaction I had, apparently. Marjot shooed me off. Kept on tossing those fire sticks of hers. And once everything was flaming real nice, she went and swapped out her gun again. Put the Molotovs away. I was using the telescope. Just trying to relax a little bit. Couldn't see much through the green-yellow sky. We still had a lot of repairs to do, so we were going to have to stay focused on that for a bit. And once all the traps were back, we were extremely short on steel. Didn't have enough for even one more trap. I went to bed, feeling about as sick as I had. Marjot came in too. She wasn't doing too bad, better than I was. Things are still such a disgusting mess everywhere. We were gonna have our hands full for a few days. When I got up, I had a meal, did some repairs to the walls, started cleaning up blood. Dirty old alien blood. Seemed like a never-ending situation around here. While doing so, I stepped on one of our traps. Damn thing stabbed me right in the lung, I think. Definitely stabbed me in the head. I was bleeding pretty bad. I decided I'd try and self-tend. Any medical experience I could get would be welcome. Marjot got up and started doing repairs. Our power system seemed to be holding strong now. Rice was growing well. We put a heater in there. We ran around repairing everything we needed to. Walls, doors. About that time, that pleasant feeling disappeared as well. Which is unfortunate, but not the end of the world. We were still both relatively alright. In terms of mental health, we were real short on steel. Once in a while, that creepy building nearby occurred to me. We were eventually going to have to go in there and see what we could find. For the minute, though, I was going to have to do some mining. See if we could get a decent stock of steel going again. And we'd need some kind of cover out there. Somewhat safe places to walk. But there were still repairs to do. I was off to bed about that time. Seemed like I healed faster than usual. Maybe that's a factor of my bionic heart, I don't know. Marjot did some research. Also stopped to do some cleaning. She was still making great progress on that. She figured out how to make carpets. And per our conversation, we need to stay focused, making ourselves a ship. And see if we can get off this horrible planet. She came out and built a little roof where we had planned some roof for my mining expedition. And decided to go to bed shortly after. That's about the time I awoke. Went and finished up the roofs we had decided to build. I had a meal out there, which wasn't the best plan. And then I decided to do a bunch of mining. So I worked on that for quite a while. Like I said, we really needed the steel. Marjot built the trap I had stepped on when she woke up. And then we both focused on hauling in the steel I'd mined. After that, Marjot did some cleaning. And we both kept on hauling steel. The rice was almost ready. Some of it apparently was. So I started working on getting that in. We were short, having wasted all that food on those muffalos that got killed. So we were trying to come up with a way to make a better solution, keep these aliens from getting in here, killing our animals once in a while, damn near killing us. Having animals around seemed to spare us though, so we were debating on taming a few small animals. Marjot was cleaning. She said she couldn't take the mess and the blood and the filth everywhere. I had to get to bed though. We were both a little toxified, but not too bad. And we decided we didn't need any more kibble sitting out. I woke up, had myself a meal, worked on the rice, and then got back to the Bionics. Marjot woke up. She went straight to research. She was deeply intrigued by this whole spaceship thing. If Kira ever showed up, she knows all about that stuff. Sadly, that's going to be an awkward situation. Don't want your wife showing up once you've been living with some other woman months and months. Not that I know Kira's even alive anymore. I had to take my mind off all that. So I went and watched some TV. Decided to do a little cleaning while I was in there. Marjot came and joined me right about the time I was leaving. We had some wort that we'd forgotten to put away to the fermenting barrel that was about to spoil. And we were distracted by the fact that the toxic fallout seemed to have ended. The sky cleared up at that point. So we were going to rip that grow room apart since we didn't really need it, nor did we want it. First step was taking down the roofs, which takes a lot more effort than putting up roofs as it happens. I got myself off the bed. Feeling well. I wasn't sick at all. Same goes for Marjot. So we took down all of our roofs that we cared about. We were going to have to deconstruct that room to celebrate that night. We had some fun together in the sack. And then I was feeling energized. There was still a ton of roofs to rip down. I worked on that for a bit, and I was back off the bed. For once it felt nice. It was peaceful. If not rather cold. We didn't spend too much time outside. So we finished ripping down that room, taking apart the doors. We're gonna have to put all the materials and supplies away. We stowed our heater and our extra light. I was working on Bionics, had a meal. Big surprise about that time, some more of those aliens showed up. Must be a hive nearby or something. These things don't seem to stop, man. And they're tough as nails. We were gonna try and shoot them. Turns out they popped up everywhere, coming at us from several different sides. There were lots of them. Good thing I'd got some steel together before this went down. So we lined up, started shooting them. Watched the stupid things come in and die on our traps. And more of them just kept coming. You could see their blood melt in the walls. Once again, we are going to have some cleanup and some rebuilding to do, but not as much as before, so we weren't super upset. I was probably going to have to do some more mining eventually. Marjot started working on rebuilding traps. I did the same. Wouldn't take us too long this time to get everything put back together. I stopped and had a beer break, just to chill out. Marjot kept working on the traps. And she went in for a meal while I finished up the last of those. She had herself a beer as well. And then she got to the business of doing the wall repairs. I was too tired about that time, so I went off to bed. She did as much work as she could before hitting the hay as well. And we'd both had some beer. We were feeling pretty frisky that night, which again left me energized, so I was up by 3 a.m. working on wall repairs, perilously stepping over traps once again. Once the repairs were done, it was back to working on the Bionics. And then I had to work on some more advanced components, since I didn't really have enough. I was doing the math, and I was going to end up a bit short on plasteel. Not much, just a few. Marjot decided to go lay out, watch the sky for a while. I kept right on working. It's nice to be making progress on stuff. We were going to have to do the math on what was required for this ship as well at some point. And see if we could just get the supplies together and start working on that. There was no way we were going to be able to make that power armor. We talked about it. The amount of plasteel required is insane, so perhaps I shouldn't have sold that stuff I had. We had talked about cracking into that creepy old structure nearby, in between having some fun in the sack. And we made a little plan. We could set up some walls and some traps, see what we could find in there. Maybe some of those robot things would be in there. We'd get ourselves some plasteel. I could finish up making Marjot's Bionics. There's only a few things left. She needed a spine. She needed an ear. After that, we'd have everything she'd require. I just gotta gain the confidence to get it all installed. Do some surgeries on her. Marjot was researching. I was using the telescope, looking at the mess the place was. We had talked about making our freezer a little bigger, but with just the two of us, Seemed like we should be able to get by with what we had. We got back to business as usual. All the while I was thinking about best way to get into that building without getting killed. I finished making the bionic ear. That just left the spine. And I needed some advanced components for that. So we decided to start making a little bit of trap and wall situation for working on getting into that building. We were just going to do it all out of wood since we had a fair amount of wood and it was readily available. And we really didn't want to haul that steel over there. Couldn't be anything too crazy in there, hopefully. So we hauled wood over, started working on some of the walls, some of the traps. We didn't want to be stepping on the traps, so we made a plan. Included not stepping on them. Marjot was having herself a beer. I had to get off to bed about that time. We were both feeling pretty positive though. Marjot went over to work on the walls a little bit, and she was out of there. She was back to bed as well. Some mad rats started swarming around outside about that time. And in the interest of not losing any of our traps, I ran on out there to close the door. And then I went on back inside. Those doors sure are slow to close, being that they're made out of rock. But we should be able to ignore those rats. And if any aliens show up, they'll have to deal with them probably. We were just going to stay inside for the minute. Stay focused on what we wanted to. Not really worry about those rats. Keep our traps intact as well. So I had a meal and went back to bed. We could hear those rats screeching and skittering. Well, we had a good time that night once again. Both as happy as it absolutely could be. I got up and fixed the door where the rat had damaged it. There was some hops ready to go despite all the toxic fallout, so I harvested those. Decided we were a little bit short on rice, so I was going to plant some more of that as well. And that's what I got to after making some wort and putting the fermenting barrels. Some of the rats seemed to be puttering out, but not all of them. I could hear them well from where I was planting rice. And after that I got back to working on advanced components. While doing so, a crazy weird piece of ship chunk fell out of the sky. Not too far. We knew for a fact some of those robots were going to pop out of there. We had to deal with the rats first though. So we grabbed our guns, went on outside. Turns out a rat's kind of hard to hit, being so small and all. So we killed the last one that was running around acting like a little jerk. I decided I was going to equip that rifle Marjot had bought me once upon a time. The one with the really long range. See if I could find a good spot to sit. We needed the plasteel. So I found a spot pretty far away where I could definitely outrange those jerks. Plugged the ship. I made them come for me. Got my assault rifle put away. I decided to watch some TV. Marjot researched until it was time for her to go to bed. And I got back to working on advanced components for a quick minute. That ship was putting out some kind of buzzing sound that was driving us both a little nuts. Wasn't as bad as it could be, but we'd have to do something about it eventually. I went to bed and woke Marjot up, feeling a little frisky. And then she got up and decided to do some work after that. She was hell-bent on figuring out this spaceship stuff. We really wanted to crack into that ancient structure and see what we could find. Our power batteries exploded about that time. Marjot kept researching. She went out there, repaired the batteries and the walls where they had damaged them. And then it happened again. Since Marjot won't touch a fire with a 10-foot pole, I had to get out and put the fire out. It also occurred to us this was happening because the batteries were getting rained on. So we'd have to build some roof over there. I got the fires put out. Got the roof put up over the batteries. I had myself a meal. And then I did the repair work around there once again. Seemed like we made a pretty amateur mistake there. After that, I was back to working on the advanced components before grabbing my gun to see if I could deal with some of those robots. It was a smaller one with a pretty good lance on his hand. I started taking shots at him. Ended up plugging him pretty good. Seemed to have blasted his shoulder right off him, which didn't make him drop his gun, unfortunately. Thing seemed oblivious to the fact that I was shooting at it, so I just kept right on. He wasn't going to respond. Turns out my gun's pretty accurate, given the quality. I was a little bit beat up. I inadvertently shot their ship, and that sent them both coming after me. I didn't want to tangle with that big one right now. The little one started shooting at me, but fortunately he missed. Probably due to the fact that I'd shot him pretty well. Couldn't stabilize himself as well as he'd like to. So I ran on inside. I stopped in the doorway to take another shot, but he was getting too close and I panicked, ran inside. I didn't need to get myself shot up here. They decided to turn around, didn't seem terribly interested anymore. So I went back to working on my advanced components for a bit. Marjot came in and did some research. The psychic buzz was bugging the crap out of me, so I ran back outside, see if I could kill that little one. And sure enough, one good shot right in the fluid reprocessor dropped the thing. And then it was time to shoot the big one. They looked tough as nails. I shot him right in the eyeball the first time. Whatever passes is an eyeball on those things. It wasn't that cold, but snow was around their ship. Seemed like it was putting out a rather cold aura. I went inside, finished an advanced component, started setting up to build another while Marjot was watching TV. And then she got back to research as I continued gathering supplies. I was just about out of plasteel. A lightning storm started nearby. There wasn't a lot of vegetation yet, considering everything had died from the toxic fallout, so I wasn't too worried about that. And I ran back out, started trying to shoot that bastard again. Turns out, shot him right in the eye again. I could shoot him in the other eye. Damn thing probably wouldn't be able to hit me anyways with his gun. I kept shooting till it decided to start chasing after me. I had to find a way to slow it down. It didn't seem to have any legs that I could see. Just these weird body plates. I stopped before I went inside. Started shooting at it. Didn't have any luck that time though. I'd shot it in a few of the body rings, and that did seem to slow it down a bit. I went inside and had myself a meal. Decided to do a little cleaning. That big scary robot decided to piss off and go about its own business. I laid in bed, feeling well, except for that buzzing going on in my head. And when I got up, realized we were short on meals and something was going to have to be done about that, of course. So I made many meals as it felt like, did some cleaning, and then I grabbed my gun. It was rather fortunate this guy had ended up relatively nearby. I didn't have to run too far, and I had a good spot to hide and shoot him. This gun certainly didn't shoot the fastest, but the range was very impressive. so I couldn't complain too much. I shot it a few more times, and then I went inside. This gun seems to like to puncture armor rather well, which is fortunate. That robot came at me again, but he turned around. I was having a beer. Marjot got ambitious, decided she was going to go out, start working on our little wall and trap setup for cracking into that ancient structure. I butchered up one of the deer that had been laying around for a while, decided to make some more meals. I was also working on an advanced component about that time. Marjot was trying to tame some nearby alpaca, since we were going to need some animals if we were going to haul stuff to a different location. I worked on meals, did some cleaning. Marjot tamed another alpaca straight away. Turns out she's getting pretty good with the animals. There are still a few crypto sleep caskets laying nearby as well, but we believe those to be tainted by aliens. We'd had enough of these damn aliens, so we were letting them just sit. I ran out, give that giant robot some business, and had good luck. Thing was all beat up. I just kept shooting it and shooting it. I was getting a little bolder than perhaps I should. And it did start shooting at me. Unfortunately, he missed. I think the thing was blind as a bat. Me having shot it in the head so many times. Somehow he could sense where I was though. Kept giving chase. The thing was about to die. Looked pretty damn weak. Barely moving around anymore. I kept shooting it. If I could get this gun to shoot a little faster, that'd be fantastic, but I couldn't. Marjot was working on walls and traps. She was hell-bent on seeing what was in that building at this point. She said it was an obsession. I was a little unsure. She came running back. Damn near got hit by some lightning. And she started shooting at that robot herself. While she was doing so, some kind of weird pulse came off that building that critter had fallen out of. She just decided to run on inside. That pulse made a couple animals really mad. It looked like that robot was getting attacked by a squirrel and a rat. It was the damnedest thing to see. We just stayed inside. I almost felt bad for the darn thing. It seemed to just be completely ignoring the fact that it was being attacked by these two little animals. It was almost comical. It seemed to me the dang thing almost got struck by lightning too. Eventually it turned around and flattened those two animals. Not really sure they hurt it much, but maybe irritated it, if it can feel irritation. So I ran out with my gun one more time. Thing was so slow now. And my next shot dropped it like a bad habit. Decided to go get my assault rifle back. I just like the fact that it shoots significantly faster. And I put that giant spear rifle right next to the door. If some aliens get in here, that wouldn't be the best spot for it. About that time, the noise that thing was making got a little more intense. So I decided it was time to destroy it. And I did. It left us a bunch of good supplies. Steel, plasteel, even found an advanced component in there. Not to mention, we could disassemble those robots. I left a meal laying out there. Some cargo pods came down about that time as well. 15 components. That'll save me some trouble. We are still hoarding components despite having sold damn near 100. I ran over to grab the components that had fallen out of the sky while Marjot ran over to work on the walls and the traps we were building. She had a meal over there. I'm sure I'd hear her complaining about that later. Our power situation was doing fantastic, so we decided we could turn on some of the stuff we'd turned off while we were experimenting, growing plants inside. I was taking a walk around. I like the whoosh sound from that windmill. It was pretty cool. It's awesome that we were able to build stuff like that. Marjot was hauling wood out to the walls and traps. And at that point, I was able to start working on the last bit of bionics that was required for Marjot. That was a bionic spine. And she almost had our little trap and wall setup finished. Let's see if we could lure whatever was into that building into it. I decided to stay focused, working on the last of those bionics. Marjot went and built the last trap. We built some sandbags too, so we could stand and shoot down the corridor. And Marjot finished the last trap. Hopefully no animals stepped on the darn things. Knowing how that goes around here though. Marjot went off to bed. She was feeling good, although she was complaining about having eaten without a table, as I suspected. I finished that bionic spine, and then I was off to bed as well. I was pretty tired, having worked longer than I wanted to today, but things were going well. We'd gotten the supplies we needed. We had all Marjot's bionics done. Next up, either install those or see what's in that building. It's going to be some exciting times ahead of us. We're looking forward to it.